My name is Hortense Beaumont. I am 58 years old. I was born in Southwest Atlanta and I worked 34 years as a nurse at the same small hospital. I raised 2 children, paid my bills on time, and learned how to stretch a pension so it lasted the whole month. I retired last year and moved into a tidy house outside of Savannah where the live oaks bow over the road. That house was supposed to be my quiet, simple life. Instead, it became the place where I learned who my family really was. Before we go on, please do me a small favor. If you like strong, real stories about people who fight back and win, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the next part. Tell me in the comments which part of the country you are watching from. I want to know who is here with me while I tell this story. The morning I realized everything had changed began like any other. Sun came through my curtains and the scent of coffee filled the kitchen. I had left my keys on the hook by the door. My husband, Malachi, had his keys too. I thought he was at the shop. He liked to tinker with old radios and clocks. I thought nothing of the small pile of boxes on the front stoop until the truck rolled away. I stood on the porch with my robe tied tight and watched a box after box go from my porch to a white truck that bore the logo of a moving company. There were 3 of them. One was Malachi. One was the woman I had seen once at church 3 years ago. Her name was Janine. She smiled too bright and wore perfume that smelled like lemon peel. The third was my sister-in-law Lucille. Lucille, who used to bring me casseroles after my surgeries. Lucille, who sat at holiday tables and told stories about our childhood. They loaded the last box and then they hugged. Malachi kissed Janine on the cheek the way a man kisses a woman when he knows he will not be coming back. Lucille waved at me without stepping off the truck to say hello. I felt my heart become a room too small for itself. I wanted to call out. I wanted to tell them to stop. But my legs folded under me like paper. I watched until the truck turned down the lane and away from everything I had built with my hands and my small pension. I did not follow them. Instead, I closed the door and sat at the kitchen table and opened the little black box where I kept important papers. I could not think. My fingers found the checkbook, then the credit cards I kept folded into a small wallet. I opened the wallet and the cards seemed to sit there like papers with names on them that no longer belonged to me. My head spun with the memory of the night a week before. Malachi had come to bed late, and there had been a smell of lemon on his shirt. He had said he needed something from his brother Lucien. He had been distracted and distant for months. I had blamed the arthritis and the medicine. I had blamed myself. Now I knew I had been blind because I did not want to believe what I saw. I stood up and began to move with a quiet purpose. There were 6 credit cards in my wallet that had been issued in both our names over the years. They were little doors to the accounts that kept our life running. I called the numbers on the back. When the customer service voice came on, I asked for the account numbers and I asked to place a block. The woman who answered did not know why a little old woman from Savannah would be asking so firmly, but she listened. I gave her the details. I told her to freeze each card and to mail the cardholder information to my house. The word freeze felt strong in my mouth. I hung up the phone and sat back down. I had cancelled 6 credit cards. It was not revenge. It was not cruelty. It was taking care of the only thing I could touch in that moment. Money was a language people used to keep score, and I would not let them keep my life with whisper promises or with forged signatures while I slept in the room next door. After I put the phone down, I made a list. I wrote down the date, the truck company, the license plate I could remember, the name Janine. I wrote Lucille's name and the fact that she had not moved in with her daughter as she had told me months ago. I wrote down every small lie that now looked like a thread in a rope that had strangled me quietly. The list made the betrayal feel real. It made it possible to act. I walked through the rooms of the house, touching things as if I could test whether they belonged to me. The pictures on the mantel were dusty from last Sunday. There was a photograph of Malachi and me from our 30th wedding anniversary. He looked the same as always. Gentle in his suit, that same half smile he had used when he thought I was not looking. In the corner of the photograph, a small paper clip held an old receipt. I pulled it out. On the receipt was a name I did not know and an address in a town 2 counties over. My hands started to shake. I dialed my son Jamal. He answered on the second ring. His voice was rough, like he had been awake. He asked me if I was okay. I told him the truck had taken some of my things. I did not tell him about the kiss. I did not tell him about Lucille's wave. I told him softly that I wanted him to come over. While I waited for him, I sat on the back steps and watched my garden. The roses I had planted the year I retired were still stubbornly red, and the hydrangeas nodded like small, tired heads. The world moved on without me. Birds came and went like secrets. When Jamal arrived, he was not alone. He parked and walked up the path with his wife Tosha. They both looked at me with that mixture of worry and judgment that children have toward the things their parents allow. His jaw tightened when he saw the empty porch. He asked the question everyone asks in small towns where everyone believes they know your business. He said, "Did Malachi tell you he was leaving?" I nodded and told them the truth as I knew it. I told them about the truck, Janine, and Lucille. My voice was even. I did not want them to think I would crack. I watched them as they took in the picture on the mantel, the list on the counter, the little black wallet. My son went to the car and came back with a stack of envelopes. He opened one and his face changed to the color of soft silver. My credit card statements were there. There were charges with small towns and fancy restaurants, and a monthly payment to an account I had never seen. He handed them to me. We sat and read like strangers. You might expect rage to be immediate in me. Sometimes it was. But in that first hour after seeing them leave, it was fear that guided me. Fear of losing not just a man I had loved, but also the money that paid for my home, for my medicine, for the little joys I allowed myself. I had worked for 40 years. I had saved what I could. I would not lose it to secrets. Jamal promised to stay for the day and to call a lawyer he knew. He said he could not believe Lucille would do this. Tosha squeezed my hand and said we would get through it. They left to find coffee and to plan. I sat back down at the table and looked at the list again. There was one line I had written at the bottom in hurried letters. Pension beneficiary change requested. Date unknown. Signature unclear. I could not tell if my hands trembled from the cold or from the feeling that something worse than an empty house sat waiting in the mail. I put on my shoes and went down to the old brass mailbox at the end of the lane. The lid was heavy in my hands. Inside there was an envelope with the county seal. It felt like the weight of every morning I had gotten up to care for someone else. When I turned the envelope over and slid the letter out, my name was not alone on the page. Someone else had been added in ink that was not my own. The signature looked like Malachi's, but the date was only 2 weeks ago. I stood on the gravel road, the letter trembling in my hand, and I tried to breathe. I thought of Lucille laughing at church this morning. I thought of Janine's perfume. I thought of the 6 cards I had frozen on my kitchen table. I thought of the life that could disappear because someone had learned how to move without me seeing. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a number I did not recognize. When I answered, a voice said 2 words that made the ground tilt under me. "We have paperwork." When I heard those words, "we have paperwork," I did not answer right away. I stood on that gravel road with the county letter in my hand and nothing in my chest but a tight, hot fear. The voice on the phone belonged to a woman. Professional. She told me she was calling from a small law office 3 towns over. She said the paperwork had my name on it. She said Malachi and another woman had been in their office just a few days ago. She wanted to know if I was available to come in and sign the final documents. Final documents. The words were sharp like needles. I asked her what the papers were about. She said she could not explain details over the phone, but my presence was required to complete a transfer. She read an address. Before I even realized I was doing it, I had said I would be there in an hour. I walked back into the house with the phone still in my hand. I shut the door and leaned against it because the room felt like it was spinning. Malachi had not just packed boxes. He had not just kissed another woman. He had signed things. Legal things. Things meant to move money or houses or pensions. All while I cooked him dinner, washed his shirts, and prayed over him on nights when he tossed in his sleep. I went to the bedroom and changed into clean clothes. A simple navy dress. Flats. I looked at myself in the mirror. 58 years old. Gray at the roots. Skin tired around the eyes. But I saw something else too. A firmness in my mouth. A steadiness in my hands. Betrayal can break you or build you. That morning, I felt it building me. On the drive to the law office, the trees blurred past my window. I held the county envelope in my lap like it was proof that I was not losing my mind. When I pulled up, the building sat quiet under the sun. It looked like a place where nothing bad should happen. Soft bricks. White windows. A sign that said Becker and Warren Attorneys. Inside, the air smelled like old books and furniture polish. A young woman at the front desk smiled politely and asked for my name. When I said it, her smile faded. She asked me to wait. After a few minutes, a tall man with a gray suit came out. He introduced himself as Mr. Warren. He asked me to follow him to his office. I sat across from him at a wooden desk that looked older than both of us. Mrs. Beaumont, thanks for coming. I know this must be unexpected. Unexpected. Another small word trying to hold a big truth. He opened a folder. Inside were papers clipped neatly. He placed one in front of me. My eyes scanned the page and stopped at the center. Quitclaim deed. My house. My land. My home. Transferred to a new owner. My voice shook when I asked who the new owner was. Mr. Warren cleared his throat. He said the transfer had been requested by my husband. He said the new owner listed was a woman named Janine Hollowell. My vision went blurry for a moment. I felt a ringing in my head. My fingers curled into fists without me meaning to. I told him I had not signed anything. That I would never sign away my home. I told him I had only been married to one man my whole life, and that man had no right to give my house to another woman. Mr. Warren nodded. He said that was why he called. He said something had felt wrong. He said my signature on the document looked shaky. He said it did not match the signature he had on file from the pension documents I had signed last year. He turned the paper toward me. The signature was messy. Tight. Not mine. Someone had tried to write my name. Someone had tried to erase my life. I pressed my hand against my chest and breathed slowly. He told me he could hold the document and open an investigation. But he needed a written letter from me saying I disputed the signature. I took the pen and wrote it right there on his desk. My handwriting shook, but it was mine. Real. Strong enough to stop a thief in her tracks. As I wrote, Mr. Warren kept talking. He said that Malachi had been quiet in the meeting. He said Janine had done most of the speaking. He said Lucille had acted like she was trying to rush things. My sister-in-law. The same woman who had braided my children's hair on Sundays. The same woman who had sat on my couch last Thanksgiving and told me she loved me like a sister. The betrayal felt heavier with every breath. Before I left, Mr. Warren placed another envelope in front of me. This one was sealed with a red stamp. "This is the other file your husband brought in," he said. "I did not open it because it is marked personal for you. But I think you should see it." I took it from him with careful hands. The weight of it felt wrong. Like it held secrets too heavy for paper. On the drive home, the envelope sat on the passenger seat staring at me like an accusation. I did not open it until I was back in my kitchen. The letter inside was short. A change of beneficiary form. For Malachi's pension. Approved. Signed. Dated. Transferred to Janine. My breath caught. My heart stuttered. Not because he had chosen another woman, but because he had taken something that belonged to me. Something I had earned with every overtime shift, every emergency call, every night away from my babies. He had tried to take the safety of my old age. My hand tightened around the paper. The room seemed to tilt. Tears stung my eyes but didn't fall. I had cried too much in my life to waste tears on a thief. Before I could think, I grabbed my phone and dialed Lucille. She answered on the second ring with her usual cheerful voice. "Hey baby, how you doing today?" I did not answer with kindness. "Lucille," I said quietly. "I know about the house. I know about the pension. And I know where that truck was going." There was a pause. A long one. Then a breath. Then the sound of her voice dropping into something cold. "I was hoping you wouldn't find out so soon." My stomach dropped. So soon. As if they had planned more. As if what they had done already was only the beginning. I sat down slowly at the table because my knees were trembling. I asked her why. Why she would help destroy my life. Her answer was soft. Almost regretful. "Because Malachi told us you wouldn't make it much longer." My heart stopped. "What do you mean by that?" Her silence lasted too long. Then she said something that made every hair on my arms stand up. "You should ask your doctor about the pills you're taking." And the line went dead. I stared at the phone, my hands shaking. Lucille's words echoed in my head like a warning too late to ignore. "Ask your doctor about the pills you're taking." I looked at the small white bottle on the counter. The one Malachi always reminded me to take. The one he said helped my nerves. The one that had made me feel tired. Foggy. Slow. 4 months. My breath came in sharp gasps. The betrayal I thought I understood was nothing compared to this new terror rising in my chest. I stepped toward the bottle slowly, as if it could bite. As if it already had. And before I could pick it up, before I could open it, before I could breathe another steady breath, someone knocked on my front door. 3 slow knocks. Like they already knew I was home. Like they were waiting. The 3 knocks were slow. Heavy. Almost polite. But something in them made my skin crawl. I stood in the middle of my kitchen staring at the front door like it was a wild animal that might charge at any moment. My heart thudded so loud I could hear it in my ears. Lucille's words still echoed inside me. "Ask your doctor about the pills you're taking." The bottle sat on the counter like a small white warning. Part of me wanted to grab it. Another part wanted to run from it. But the knock came again. 1, 2, 3. This time firmer. As if the person on the other side knew I had heard them. I walked slowly to the door. My hands trembled. I looked through the peephole. A man in a brown uniform stood on my porch. He wasn't UPS. He wasn't FedEx. He wasn't the mailman. His shirt had a badge sewn on it from the county sheriff's department, but the badge looked slightly faded, like it hadn't been worn by someone active for years. He held a clipboard under one arm. "Mrs. Beaumont," he called through the door. "I just need a quick signature." My blood turned cold. A signature. Again. Every muscle in my body tightened. Something inside me whispered not to open the door. I stepped back. "What signature?" I asked through the wood. He shifted his weight. His shoes pointed toward the street as if the truck was waiting. "Just paperwork about a transfer. Nothing too serious." Transfer. The word twisted inside me. I thought of the house deed. The pension. The forged signature. Lucille's cold voice. Malachi's quiet betrayal. "No," I said. My voice stronger than I expected. "Slide it under the door." There was a pause. A long one. Too long. Then he knocked again, this time harder. "Mrs. Beaumont, it's best you open the door." My heart dropped into my stomach. That wasn't the voice of a county officer doing his job. That was the voice of someone following instructions. I moved away from the door slowly, trying not to make a sound. I picked up my phone and dialed my son Jamal. It rang once. Twice. Then straight to voicemail. That never happened unless his phone was off. My hands shook as I tried again. Voicemail. I dialed his wife, Tosha. Also voicemail. Another knock. This time sharp. Impatient. "Ma'am. Open this door." I backed into the kitchen and reached for the closest thing with weight, the iron skillet hanging near the stove. I gripped it tightly. I wasn't scared of death. I had seen too much in my years as a nurse to fear the end. But I wasn't about to go quietly so someone else could live comfortably on what I had earned. I moved slowly toward the back door. If I slipped out quietly, maybe I could get to Mrs. Carter's house across the yard. She always kept her porch light on and she never minded helping. But when I looked out my back window, I froze. A second man stood behind my house near the hydrangeas, hands in pockets, looking toward the back door like he was waiting for me to try that very thing. My breath caught. Cold swallowed me. Someone had planned this. Someone had known I'd be home today. Someone had expected me to answer the door. I stepped back from the window and pressed myself against the wall. The house was quiet except for the slow ticking of the clock above the mantel and my own uneven breathing. I tried calling 911. The call did not go through. No service. That had never happened in this neighborhood. I swallowed hard. My chest ached. The walls felt too close. The men outside stayed still, patient, like they weren't in a hurry, like they knew I only had two choices: open the door or get dragged out. I put the skillet down slowly. Panic wouldn't help me. I had survived nearly 6 decades of life. I had buried parents, siblings, friends. I had worked in emergency rooms and held dying hands. I had raised 2 children through storms and setbacks. I was not going to lose myself here. I closed my eyes and let my mind settle. Then I remembered something. The envelope. The second one Mr. Warren had handed me. He had said it was personal. Marked urgent. I had tossed it on the counter in the chaos of Lucille's phone call. I grabbed it with shaking hands and tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper. And one sentence. "Hortense, they're trying to declare you incompetent." The world tilted. I gripped the counter to stay upright. My breath came short and fast. The letter continued. "They want full control of your assets. They filed a petition claiming you are confused, forgetful, and unsafe to handle your own finances. They plan to move you into a care home. Do not sign anything." The signature at the bottom made my heart stop. It was from Dr. Halstead. My doctor. The same doctor who had prescribed the pills Malachi insisted I take. The same doctor I trusted for years. The same doctor who had retired 2 months ago. So why was his signature on a letter sent today? My hands shook violently. The morning's foggy memories. The tiredness. The confusion. The fainting spells. The days when I felt like my mind was slipping away. Had it all been the pills? Had someone been trying to slowly erase me? I stared at the bottle on the counter. Then the knock came again. This time the voice at the door spoke words that made my blood turn to ice. "Ma'am, we're here to escort you. The judge approved the order this morning." My legs nearly gave out. Court order. Escort. My voice left me. My hands went cold. My mind raced. They had not only stolen my husband, not only stolen my money, not only stolen my home. They were trying to steal my whole identity. If I was declared incompetent, I would lose everything. My accounts. My decisions. My freedom. They could put me anywhere. Give me anything. Take anything. And no one would question it. Everything clicked at once. The pills. The forged signature. The quiet late nights. The lies. The sudden rush to move things. The men outside. They weren't here to hurt me. They were here to take me. To drag me somewhere they thought an old woman belonged. Somewhere I would never come back from. I grabbed my purse, shoved the envelope inside, and backed slowly toward the hallway. But before I could take another step, the doorknob turned. From the outside. The doorknob turned slowly, Like whoever was on the other side had all the time in the world. Like they weren't worried about me running. Like they were sure I had nowhere to go. My breath froze. I slid silently into the hallway and pressed myself against the wall, my heart thudding so loud I was sure they could hear it. The front door creaked open. Footsteps entered my living room. 2 sets. Boots. Heavy. Confident. I held my breath as their shadows stretched across the floorboards. The first man spoke. Check the back. She might have slipped out already. My stomach tightened. They thought I'd run. That gave me one tiny advantage. They did not know where I was. The second man walked toward the kitchen, his shadow gliding along the wall like a dark wave. I held my breath so hard my ribs ached. He stopped in front of the counter. The sound of pill bottles clicking made my skin crawl. He found the bottle. I watched his silhouette lift it to the light. He shook it once. Then again. Yeah, he said to the other man. She's been taking it. My heart dropped. Taking what? I slid back farther into the hallway, inch by inch, until I reached the edge of my bedroom door. I pushed it open just enough for me to slip inside. If I could reach the window, I could climb out onto the small ledge and jump into the bushes behind my house. I had done it once 10 years ago when the door got stuck during a storm. But before I could move, something buzzed. My phone. Loud. Violent. Impossible to ignore. The screen lit up in my hand. Jamal. Calling me back. The noise echoed through the hallway like a shout. Both men froze. Hey. One yelled. She's still inside. I shoved the phone into my pocket and ran into the bedroom. My heart slammed against my ribs like a drum. I locked the door, knowing it wouldn't hold them long. Their footsteps thundered down the hall. I threw open my window. The old wooden frame groaned, too loud, too slow. Come on, I whispered. The footsteps stopped outside my door. The knob twisted, then rattled, then bang. They hit the door so hard the frame shook. I pushed the window up with all the strength in my arms. It opened halfway before sticking. Another bang. Another crack. The door frame splintered. I wedged my shoulder under the window and shoved hard. It slid all the way up. Just as I started climbing out, the bedroom door burst open. I threw myself through the window, falling hard into the bushes below. Pain shot through my hip, but I bit back a cry. I pulled myself up and limped toward the far end of the yard. Behind me, a man leaned out my bedroom window shouting, "She's in the yard." I ducked behind a thick oak tree and pressed my back against it, breathing fast and shallow. Their footsteps pounded across my porch. I heard the back door slam open. They were searching for me. I could not outrun 2 grown men. My age would betray me. My hip throbbed with each breath. The pills, whatever they were, still fogged the edges of my mind. But there was one place they wouldn't think I'd go. My neighbor's old storage shed across the fence. I crouched low and moved as quietly as I could. The grass brushed against my legs like warning fingers. My pulse raced in my ears. When I reached the fence, I gripped the boards and pulled myself over. It wasn't pretty. My knees scraped. My breath hitched. But I dropped on the other side just as the men reached my backyard. Where did she go? She's gotta be close. Search everywhere. I slipped into the shed and closed the door behind me. It was dark and smelled like old paint and wet wood. Dust hung in the air like quiet ghosts. I crouched between 2 wooden crates and pulled out my phone. Missed calls. Texts from Jamal. "Mom, call me. Are you okay? Mom, what's going on?" I tried to dial him but stopped myself. If I made noise again, they'd find me. I put the phone on silent and forced myself to breathe slow. Calm. Steady. The way I used to breathe when helping patients who panicked on the operating table. A beam of light swept across the shed window. Someone was checking the yard. I ducked lower. Minutes passed like hours. Finally the voices drifted farther away. We'll find her. She ain't going far. Then silence. I stayed still until the only sound left was the rustle of leaves. Slowly, I opened my phone again. I typed a message to Jamal. Do not come to the house. It is not safe. I will explain later. I need you to meet me somewhere private. My hands shook as I typed the next words. They tried to take me. Before I hit send, another notification popped up. An email. From Mr. Warren. Subject. Urgent. Do not return home. The message inside made my heart stop. Hortense, I just received information from a clerk at the courthouse. Someone filed an emergency guardianship petition claiming you are medically unstable and a danger to yourself. They plan to serve you today. If you had signed anything at the door, you would have lost all legal rights immediately. My vision blurred. My hands went cold. Then the final line felt like a punch to my chest. They also filed a motion stating you had already agreed to move into a care facility tonight. 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 I stared at the words, my breath trembling. They hadn't just planned to take my house. They hadn't just planned to take my pension. They planned to take me, my whole life, and lock me away where no one would ever hear my side of the story. Suddenly, the shed door creaked. Slowly. Softly. So quiet it almost wasn't there. I froze. My breath stopped. A shadow fell across the floorboards. And a familiar voice whispered my name. Mom, you in here? Jamal's whisper cut through the shed like a blade, sharp enough to slice the air in two. Mom, you in here? My whole body locked. For a moment I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I didn't know if it was really him or if someone was pretending. After everything that happened today, trust felt like a fragile thing, thin as cracked glass. I pressed my back harder against the crates and listened. Soft footsteps. A slow inhale. Then, Mom, it's me. Please, come out. That broke me. I stood up slowly, still cautious. When I pushed the shed door open a crack, I saw his face in the moonlight, tired, scared, sweat beading on his forehead. His chest rose and fell fast, like he'd been running. Jamal stepped inside quickly and shut the door behind him. The moment he wrapped his arms around me, my whole body shook. Not from fear this time, but from relief. Real relief. He held me tighter. Mom, what happened? Why didn't you answer your phone? Why did the sheriff's office say you were already gone? I pulled back sharply. What did they tell you? He brushed his hands over his face. They said you'd been taken for medical evaluation. They said you weren't safe alone. Mom, what is going on? I grabbed his shoulders. Jamal, listen to me carefully. Someone tried to take me today. Not for my health. Not for my safety. For control. Complete control. His eyes widened. He shook his head like he didn't want to believe it. Who? I swallowed. Your father. And your Aunt Lucille. And that woman Janine. Jamal's jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth would crack. He took a shaky breath. Mom, what do you mean, take you? I reached into my purse and pulled out the court letter, the forged documents, the fake signature, the urgent warning from the lawyer. I watched his expression change with every page. Confusion, disbelief, then pure anger. He dropped the papers. They tried to take your house? Your pension? They forged your signature? They tried to put you in a care home? His voice cracked on that last sentence. Mom, they were going to bury you alive. I nodded slowly. There's more. He looked at me like he couldn't take another secret, but I told him anyway. Lucille told me to check the pills Malachi gave me. The ones the doctor supposedly prescribed. Jamal froze. Mom, Dad has been giving you those pills for months. My stomach tightened. Do you know what they are? He swallowed hard. I don't, but I can find out. We both went silent as footsteps echoed faintly in the distance. The men were still looking for me. Jamal motioned for me to crouch down. They ain't gone far. They're checking every yard. We stayed low, backs pressed against the wooden wall, barely breathing. After a long minute, Jamal whispered, "Mom, you can't stay here. You can't go home either. They might have filed that guardianship order already." I closed my eyes. If they did, then anywhere I go, they can drag me out. Unless I prove the whole thing is a lie. I looked at Jamal. "Baby, I need a doctor. A real one. Someone who can test those pills. Someone who can show I'm not sick, not confused, not incompetent." Jamal nodded. "I know someone. One of my old college friends works at the regional clinic 2 counties over. But we gotta move now." He peeked out of the shed. "All clear." He helped me climb over the back fence again. I winced as my hip throbbed, but I kept going. We stayed close to the shadows until we reached his car parked 3 houses down. He didn't park in front of my home. Good boy, sharp like his late grandmother. He opened the passenger door fast. "Get in, Ma. Buckle up." Just as I slid into the seat, a pickup truck turned onto the street. The same truck I'd seen earlier. I ducked low. Jamal whispered, "Mom, don't lift your head. They're slowing down." I held my breath. The truck crawled past us. I could see the outline of the man in the passenger seat scanning the houses. Waiting. Searching. My skin prickled as he looked our way. I prayed he couldn't see my silhouette. After what felt like a full minute, the truck continued down the road. Jamal exhaled. "Okay. Hold on." He started the engine and pulled away slowly, not fast enough to attract attention, but steady enough to leave the neighborhood behind. When we reached the main road, I finally sat back and breathed. The trees blurred past my window as the night swallowed the small town behind us. "Mom," Jamal said quietly, "why would Dad do this to you? After 30 years? After everything?" I looked out the window. "Because I wasn't supposed to wake up." He gripped the steering wheel. "What do you mean?" I took a breath. Some days I'd wake up foggy. Some days I'd fall asleep too easily. Some days I'd forget what time it was. I thought it was old age. Stress. Hormones. But now I think somebody wanted me slow. Unsteady. Forgetful. Jamal's knuckles whitened. "Mom, do you think Dad was poisoning me?" The word hung in the car like smoke. I didn't want to say it out loud. I didn't want it to be true. But the truth doesn't change because you fear it. I nodded. Jamal slammed his hand on the wheel. "If that's true, if he really did that, he's going to pay for every second of it." I placed a hand on his arm. "Baby, don't make promises for revenge. Make promises for protection." He looked at me and nodded. After a long stretch of silence, he said, "Mom, do you think Dad loved that woman?" I looked at my hands. "I don't know. But I think he loved something more. Control." We drove until the lights of the next town rose in the distance. Jamal pointed. "The clinic is right behind that grocery store. I'll take you through the back entrance so nobody sees you." I nodded. But before we reached the exit ramp, my phone buzzed. A text message. From an unknown number. I tapped it open. And my blood turned cold. It was a picture. Of my living room. Tonight. Lights on. Curtains open. And standing inside was Lucille. Smiling. Under the photo were 5 words. "You should have signed the papers." My heart slammed hard. It wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. A promise that this wasn't over. A promise that she knew exactly where I was supposed to be. Jamal's hands tightened around the steering wheel the moment he saw the picture on my phone. Lucille standing in my living room, smiling like she already owned it. Like she was waiting for me to give up the fight. Jamal glanced at the picture, then looked back at the road with a jaw so tight the muscles jumped. "Mom, she's bold for real. Sending you this?" While those men were looking for you. He shook his head. We need proof. Real proof. Then we drag all of them to court. I nodded, though my insides trembled. And that trembling deepened as another message came through. 3 words. You're running late. A cold wave passed through me. They weren't guessing. They weren't hoping. They knew I was still alive. They were watching. Jamal took the next turn, speeding just a little faster now. Mom, put your phone on silent. And don't open anything else. They might try to track you through it. I did as he said. He was calm, but I could hear the fear under his voice. A fear that wasn't for himself. A fear for me. Lights approached. The small regional clinic sat behind a grocery store, just like he'd said, glowing quietly in the dark like a safe place tucked away from trouble. But safety is a strange thing. You only feel it when danger steps aside. And danger didn't feel anywhere near finished tonight. Jamal parked behind the clinic and walked around to help me out of the car, holding my elbow like he used to when he was a little boy crossing the street. Mom, stay close, he whispered. We made our way to a rusty back door. He tapped lightly. After a moment, a young woman cracked it open, wearing scrubs and looking around nervously. Hortense Beaumont? She whispered. I nodded. She stepped aside quickly. Come in. Fast. Inside, the hallway smelled of antiseptics and quiet secrets. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. She led us into a small room with pale blue walls, a single bed, and a counter full of medical supplies. I'm Dr. Mia Richardson, she said. Jamal told me everything in a message. I don't have long before security starts their rounds, but I can run tests on the pills and check your vitals. She extended her hand, but the look in her eyes held something deeper than professionalism. It held fear. Not for herself. For me. She shut the door, locked it, and lowered her voice. Those pills, where are they? I handed her the bottle from my purse. She studied it. Her eyebrows knitted together immediately. This bottle is from your old clinic. But this label. She slid her finger across it. This looks reprinted. The ink is too new. And this serial number doesn't match our system. My breath caught. Jamal clenched his fists. Dr. Richardson opened the bottle and poured 3 pills into her palm. She held one up to the light, turning it slowly. This isn't what the label says it is. My heart thundered. Then what is it? She hesitated. Too long. Jamal stepped forward. Doctor, tell us. She swallowed hard. These look like a sedative mixed with something else. Something that shouldn't be in a medication bottle. Something that, taken daily, could mimic cognitive decline in an older patient. My knees weakened. So I wasn't losing my mind. Someone had been breaking it on purpose. Jamal paced, shaking with anger. So he was drugging my mother? My father. Dr. Richardson looked at him with pity. If she kept taking these, she would have eventually seemed confused, unsteady, forgetful. Maybe enough for someone to claim guardianship. The room spun. Not because I was dizzy, but because the truth was finally settling into place. The pills were a trap. A slow one. A quiet one. A deadly one. Dr. Richardson placed a hand gently on my shoulder. I'm going to run a chemical test in the lab. It'll take about 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Jamal nodded. We can wait. The doctor slipped out of the room with the bottle, leaving the door cracked slightly. I sat on the bed, hands shaking, tears threatening to fall. Jamal sat beside me. Mom, you deserved rest, not betrayal. You worked your whole life. You gave Dad everything. I swear I won't let them take anything else from you. His voice broke. He covered his face with his hands. The sight of my son crying shook something deep inside me. I placed my hand on his back. Baby, don't let their evil become your anger. Let it become your strength. He nodded slowly. Then we heard footsteps outside. Fast ones. Jamal put a finger to his lips. Sure. Someone whispered urgently in the hallway. Is she here or not? My pulse jumped. That wasn't Dr. Richardson. Jamal moved quietly to the door and peered through the crack. His whole body tensed. Mom, someone followed us. A shadow shifted in the hall. I covered my mouth with trembling fingers. Then a voice I knew, too well, drifted into the room. We need to find her before they run tests. If those pills come back dirty, this whole thing falls apart. Lucille. She was here. In the clinic. Inside the building. Looking for me. Jamal pulled me back from the doorway. His voice was a whisper coated in fear. Mom, she's not alone. Outside, another voice spoke. Let's check every room. She couldn't have gone far. My chest tightened. Lucille and whoever she brought were determined. Desperate. Dangerous. Jamal grabbed his phone, texting fast with shaky thumbs. I'm getting Dr. Richardson back. Stay behind me. But before he could finish typing, a shadow darkened the crack of the door. Someone was standing right outside. Their hand gripped the doorknob, turning it slowly. Too slowly. And then, a loud crash shook the hallway. Lucille shouted. What was that? Jamal grabbed my arm. Mom, stay ready. The doorknob kept turning. My breath broke. The door began to open. And what stepped inside the room was not Lucille. Was not one of those men. It was something. Or someone. I never expected to see tonight. The door creaked open, and my breath froze in my throat as a familiar figure stepped inside. Shoulders slumped, eyes tired, hands trembling as if he had seen a ghost. It was Malachi. My husband. The man who had kissed another woman on my porch. The man who had signed away my pension. The man who tried to move me into a care home. The man who told people I was slipping. He looked older than he had that morning. Exhausted. Almost frightened. But guilt can crack a man faster than age can. Jamal lunged forward before I could speak. What are you doing here? Malachi lifted both hands slowly like he expected to be hit. Jamal, please. Listen to me. Jamal shoved him back against the wall. No. You don't get to talk. You don't get to be here. You sent men to drag my mother out of her own house. You let Aunt Lucille fill her with poison pills. And now what? You came to finish the job? Malachi's voice cracked. No. I came to stop them. My whole body stiffened. Stop them. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen in months. Fear. Not fear of getting caught. Fear of what he had helped start. He took a breath. Hortense. I didn't know about the pills. I almost laughed out loud. The sound came out sharp and painful. You handed them to me yourself. His eyes dropped to the floor. I didn't know what was really in them. Lucille told me they were to help you sleep. She said you were forgetting things. She told me the doctor said. I stepped closer. Which doctor, Malachi? The silence that followed told me everything. He didn't know. He looked terrified by the realization. Jamal's voice shook with anger. So you just handed my mother bottles of drugs because someone told you to? Malachi's shoulders sagged. Lucille said you weren't yourself. He rubbed his temples like he was trying to erase a memory. She said you were slipping away. My chest tightened with a painful truth. They had played him too. Not because he was innocent, but because he was weak. Malachi swallowed hard. I didn't know they were planning to take your house. I didn't know they were filing court papers. I thought we were just preparing, in case you got worse. Anger burned hot in my chest. I got worse because of what you were giving me. His eyes filled with tears. I know. That's why I'm here. Because when I realized it, when I saw what Lucille filed at the courthouse, I panicked. She told me to stay quiet. She said it was for your own good. But I heard them talking tonight. They said you had escaped. They said they had to find you before tests were run. He took a shaky breath. And if those tests came back wrong, they planned to say you'd forged them. My knees wobbled. Jamal steadied me. Malachi stepped forward slowly like a man approaching a wounded wolf. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I messed up. But you need to know this. Lucille didn't do all this alone. Janine didn't do it alone. He looked at me with a pain that felt too heavy for one man. There were others. I stared at him, heart pounding. What others? Before he could answer, heavy footsteps thundered down the hallway. Jamal pushed Malachi behind him. Hide. Malachi didn't argue. He slipped behind a curtain near the exam table. The door to the room shook violently. Then, open it. Lucille's voice. Shrill. Angry. Panicked. Jamal motioned for me to get behind him. I did. The door rattled again. Lucille snapped at someone outside. Break it down. Jamal grabbed a metal stool like a weapon. My heart raced. Sweat gathered in my palms. Before the door could burst open, someone slipped back into the room. Dr. Richardson. Her face was pale. Her breath quick. I have the results, she whispered urgently. And you all need to leave. Right now. She held up a small sealed plastic bag. Inside were the pills. Jamal inhaled sharply. What's in them? She whispered the words like a secret no one should ever hear. A sedative. And something else. Something meant to mimic early dementia. Something meant to make a judge believe you were incompetent. Something that could, with continued use, shut down parts of your memory for good. My stomach twisted. So it was true. Everything I felt. Everything I feared. Everything they wanted. All real. Jamal whispered. Doctor, can you testify? Dr. Richardson swallowed hard. I can. But you must leave now. If they catch you in this clinic, they will take the evidence and claim you came here confused. That was when the doorknob twisted again. Lucille screamed. Open this door now. Dr. Richardson pointed to the back of the room. There's a service exit. Go. Jamal grabbed my purse. I grabbed the test results. Malachi stayed behind the curtain. I whispered to him. Come with us. He shook his head. If I leave, they'll know I betrayed them. I'll slow them down. Go. Boots stomped outside the door. Jamal pulled my arm. Mom, now. We hurried through the narrow hallway as Dr. Richardson held the door shut with her body. Go. She hissed. We ran, limping, shaking, breath tight, toward a dim exit sign glowing red above a metal door. But just before we reached it, a shadow stepped out of the darkness. Tall. Still. Blocking our escape. I froze. Jamal froze. The figure stepped forward into the faint light. And my heart nearly stopped. It was Janine. Her smile was cold. Her voice even colder. Going somewhere, Hortense? Janine's smile was the kind that didn't reach her eyes. Thin, stretched, dangerous. She stood between us and the exit like a wall made of ice. Jamal stepped in front of me, fists clenched. But Janine didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed locked on mine. You made this harder than it needed to be, Hortense. Her voice was calm. Too calm. We could have done this gently. I felt Jamal's rage boiling beside me. Do what gently? Drug her? Steal her house? Throw her in a home? You think we don't know everything now? Janine tilted her head. I could see the cruelty in the angle of her smirk. You weren't supposed to figure anything out. Not yet. Before I could answer, another set of footsteps echoed behind her. Lucille. She appeared like a storm cloud, breathing hard, hair wild, eyes full of fury. Jamal dragged his mother into a clinic? She hissed. Do you know how much trouble this causes? Jamal barked back. Trouble. Trouble is what you tried to do to my mother. Lucille scoffed. Oh please. Hortense was slipping for months. We did what was best. She couldn't be trusted anymore. She couldn't manage her money. I stepped forward. You fed me pills. Pills not prescribed by any real doctor. Pills meant to make me look sick. Pills meant to take my mind from me. Lucille didn't flinch. She folded her arms. And you acted like you needed help. We just gave it to you sooner. Her words sliced through me like a blade. Janine leaned against the wall, watching, studying me, calculating. I finally understood. She was the mind behind all this. Lucille was her assistant. Malachi was her puppet. And I was supposed to be silent. But silence has a way of breaking. Jamal took a step forward. You're not touching her again. Lucille smirked. The judge already signed the order. She belongs in our care now, whether she likes it or not. I felt my heart tighten. But then, I remembered the paper in my hand. Dr. Richardson's test results. Evidence. Proof. A weapon. I lifted it slowly. My voice steady. This says otherwise. Lucille's face twisted. Give me that paper. I shook my head. No. Janine stepped forward, but not with anger. With something colder. Let me tell you how this ends, Hortense. You hand that over. Or you won't leave this building. Jamal moved to shield me. Then something happened I never expected. A voice echoed behind us. She's not leaving with you. We turned. Malachi. Standing in the hallway. Pale as chalk. Breathing hard. Hands shaking. Lucille snapped. Get back inside. But Malachi didn't move. He walked toward us. Not with strength, but with a kind of shame that bent his spine. Jamal towered over him. Dad, stay back. But Malachi held up a hand. Son. I need to say something. His eyes met mine. I'm sorry. I didn't know what they were planning. I didn't know what they put in those pills. Lucille told me they were from your doctor. Janine told me it was temporary. I believed them because... His voice broke. Because I didn't want to believe you were slipping. For a moment. Just a moment. I saw the man I married. The man before the lies. Before the weakness. Malachi looked at Lucille. You told me she agreed to sign everything. You said she'd be safer. You said. Lucille snapped like a whip. You were too stupid to question anything. Malachi flinched. Janine stepped closer, her composure cracking for the first time. Both of you shut up. It was the first time I'd heard desperation in her voice. She reached into her purse. My heart stopped. Jamal tensed. Don't move. Janine's hand came out fast. But not with a weapon. With a phone. Already dialed. You think the police will believe your little story? She hissed. Or will they believe the documents we filed? The witnesses we prepared? The medical decline we reported? The sheriff's note saying she was unstable? I felt my knees weaken. Lucille smiled. We covered everything. But then, the hallway lights flickered. Footsteps thundered behind us. Dr. Richardson rushed toward us with 2 security guards. Her voice rang through the corridor like a bullet. The lab cameras recorded everything. The pill test is complete. I called the police myself. They're on their way. Lucille's face drained of color. Janine stepped back. Her hand shaking now. You can't. Dr. Richardson cut her off. I can. And I did. She looked at me. Mrs. Beaumont, you're safe now. Everything happened fast. Security moved in. Lucille tried to run. A guard caught her arm. Janine tried to delete her phone. Jamal snatched it away. Malachi sank to the floor, covering his face. Sirens wailed outside. Red and blue lights painted the hallway. 2 officers entered. "Ma'am, are you Hortense Beaumont?" I nodded. "We were sent to check on you. There was a report filed claiming you were mentally unfit and needed detainment. But we were given new evidence." The officer looked at Dr. Richardson. "Doctor, is she medically stable?" Dr. Richardson stood tall. "Yes. Completely." Jamal squeezed my hand. The officer turned to Lucille and Janine. "Both of you are under arrest." Janine froze. "For what?" The officer listed the charges. Elder abuse, fraud, forgery, attempted unlawful guardianship, medical deception, coercion, conspiracy. Lucille screamed. "You can't do this. We were trying to help her." The officer locked the cuffs. "No, ma'am. You were trying to steal her life." Janine dropped her purse. Her face crumpled as officers grabbed her wrists. "This was supposed to be easy," she shouted. She wasn't supposed to figure it out. As they dragged her away, her voice echoed down the hallway. "This isn't over, Hortense. You hear me? This isn't." The doors slammed. Silence settled. A kind that felt like the deepest breath I'd taken in years. Jamal wrapped his arm around me. "Mom, it's over." I looked around that small clinic hallway. The security guards. The doctor. The police. My son. The evidence in my hand. My life, my freedom, had been moments from being stolen. But here I was. Not broken. Not detained. Not silent. Alive. Standing. Strong. I looked at Malachi. He couldn't meet my eyes. I said softly, "I may forgive someday, but I will never forget." He nodded. I walked past him, not with anger, but with power. Quiet strength. The kind I had earned. Jamal helped me outside. The night felt different now. Lighter, clearer. A breeze rustled the trees like they were clapping for the truth. Before getting into Jamal's car, I turned back toward the clinic doors. This wasn't revenge. It was justice. And justice, when it comes late, comes loud. I faced the camera, the one recording this story, and smiled gently. To everyone watching, if you stayed with me through this whole journey, thank you. Please like this video, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any future stories. And comment below where you're watching from. I love reading your messages. Tonight I got my life back. Let this be a reminder. They can take your house. They can take your money. But they can't take your strength. Not unless you hand it to them.